everyone, and welcome back to My Nerdy Kitchen. I'm Rachel, I'm your nerdy chef, and today is Christmas Eve, and so we are going to be making some Christmassy things. I solemnly swear that I am up to no good in the kitchen, because I make messes. Alright, enough chatter, let's get to baking!
Hello everyone, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you all. I am going to start off by saying that this is a monster of a recipe. We are making the Christmas cake for grown-ups. First things first is you're going to need a lot of fruit. For each of these, you are going to need a half cup. So starting with your dried apricots, you're going to cut them up into small pieces and then push them to the side. You're going to do the same thing with your dried dates. Put those to the side, and then you can use either dried currants or cranberries. And then you also need dark raisins and your golden raisins. Take all of these berries and put them in a bowl, and then you're going to cover them with 1 cup of brandy. You're going to allow this concoction to sit overnight so that the berries can absorb all of that delicious brandy. Make sure that everything is well mixed and covered so that everything gets evenly distributed. And then just cover it with a piece of saran wrap and then wait until tomorrow. The recipe recommends having a locking 9-inch springform pan, and honestly, I found it to be really dandy. Take out your butter and your eggs, make sure that they are at room temperature when you go to start. And this is when I realized that I didn't have all the ingredients I needed. Yep, I had to go to the grocery store on Christmas Eve. Oh boy, it was an experience. But I survived, and now we can get back to baking, including with our apron. Now that we are ready, we can actually begin our cake. We are going to butter and flour our cake tin, both the sides and the bottom. You're going to first put the butter on, and then you're going to sprinkle flour over top of the butter. After that, you're going to take the flour over to the sink or wherever, knock off all the extra, and then you are good to go. Line both the sides and the bottom of your cake tin with parchment paper. This will help your cake not stick as you go to get it out. Trust me, you are going to want to do this. The sides are definitely a little bit tricky to do, however, I know you can do it. Find those berries that you soaked overnight in the brandy and drain the fruit. Be sure to reserve the brandy that is left over because we are going to be using it later in this recipe. Time to prep some more fruit. You will need 2 oranges, 1 lime, and 1 lemon. Zest each of these thoroughly until you have little piles of zest. I think I accidentally grabbed blood oranges for mine because they were not the right color as a regular orange, but it's okay. It worked out fine. But you really just need regular oranges. And you are also going to juice each of these. So 1 lime, 1 lemon, and 2 oranges. Move that to the side, but keep it nearby because we're coming back to it soon. If you have ground walnuts, you can skip this step. I unfortunately did not, so I had to mash some up myself. But if you have ground walnuts, you need a half cup. Now grab a bowl and let's begin. In bowl number 1, you are going to put in 3 cups of flour, a half cup of your ground walnuts, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 2 teaspoons ground cinnamon, half teaspoon ground nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoons of both ground cloves and ground allspice. Oh, and a half teaspoon of salt. Whisk all of these together until they are nicely mixed, and then set this aside and grab another bowl. In this bowl, you are putting 1½ sticks or 12 tablespoons of butter at room temperature and 1½ cups of packed dark brown sugar. Give that a mix, and then you are going to add 1 egg at a time, beating in between each of the eggs. Add an egg, beat it. Add an egg. And beat it. Add an egg and give it a beat. You'll notice that it starts to get much, much smoother as you go. Here's where all of those fruits start to come into play. Add all of the juice and the zest from the limes, lemons, and oranges, along with that reserved brandy and the half cup of marmalade. It may start to look a little bit curdled as you go, and that is okay. That's going to happen because you have creams and you have acid-based things in the same pot. I promise you, it's okay. It still is going to taste delicious. Slowly begin to add in that flour mixture from before. I ended up folding it in at first just to make sure that it didn't go everywhere, and then you can beat it on the lowest speed until it's fully combined. Go over and grab your soaked berries, and you're going to put those into your mixture along with 1 cup of chopped walnuts. You're going to fold this into your mixture with a spatula because the beater will break down the fruit and the walnuts, and then you're going to pour the entire thing into your cake pan and then stick it into the oven. The oven needs to be at 275, and you're going to put it in for 2.5 hours.
Christmas cake is mentioned in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, chapter 12. Harry has finally had the best Christmas feast that he has ever imagined, and by the end of the day, full of delicious foods and Christmas cake, he is way too full and can do nothing but just sit in the common room and hang out with Ron and the twins. So, according to the book, this rich fruit cake, which is also called a plum cake, plum coming from the Middle Ages, meaning fruit, which has gone through the centuries and stuck with us, is very popular, especially around Christmas, hence the name Christmas cake. It wasn't until the 1700s that the tradition to cover the cake in marzipan and then royal icing came about. Who knew?
After that 2.5 hours is done, your house will begin to smell like Christmas. Grab a poker stick, whatever you have around, stab it in the middle to make sure that it is fully cooked, and then you're going to let it cool completely in the pan. I wish you guys could smell how good this made my house smell when it came out of the oven. It was sublime. Once your cake is completely cool, you are going to take it out of the tin, unwrap it from the parchment paper, and you are going to flip it on its head. I laid out saran wrap because that is how we are going to store it until we are ready to put it all together. So you'll see that I am flipping it over, and I am going to poke little holes in the bottom of my cake. Going to take a 1/4 cup of brandy, and you are going to pour it over the entire bottom of the cake. This is why it needs to be upside down. You will also store it upside down. That is really, really important so that all the brandy can soak into the rest of the cake. Now, if you wanted this to be for kiddos, you can replace the brandy with apple juice. However, it has to be served within 24 hours or the apple juice will go bad. Welcome to a few days later in a state away in North Carolina where it's time to put the cake together. So the cake has been flipped right side up and it's time to make it pretty. First things first is we need our marzipan. We need 2 pounds of the stuff. It can be found in the baking aisle, but can be a little bit difficult to find, much to my partner's chagrin. So I rolled out some parchment because this stuff is real sticky, and you're going to want to lay down some confectioner's sugar so that it doesn't stick to whatever you're using, including your rolling pin, don't forget that. Put your 2 pounds of marzipan onto the parchment paper and start to roll this bad boy out until it gets to be 14 inches in diameter. Not gonna lie, this was very difficult to roll out and it really took some arm strength, but eventually I did get it to roll out and be an even consistency, and finally it was time to put it to the side and save for later. So this recipe calls for a 1/2 cup of currant jelly that has been melted down. Currant jelly is very difficult to find, so you can actually use a Concord grape with a little bit of lemon juice added in after it's been melted down. This gives it that little bit of sharpness that a currant has. Well, that's what the internet told me, so that's what I'm going to do. Take your cake, your beautiful cake. Look at the stand that my mom gave me. Thanks, Mom. And you are going to cover the entire cake in this beautiful melted jelly. Make sure that it is enough that the marzipan is going to stick to it. So this is kind of like the glue holding it all together. Don't forget the sides. The recipe doesn't say whether or not you're supposed to use all of the jelly. I didn't, and the marzipan stuck just fine. Clean up your edges. Gordon Ramsay would be very happy. And then it is time to lay the marzipan over the top. You are going to press the marzipan down onto the cake, making sure that it's pressed close to the edges, and then you are going to cut away the excess marzipan with a sharp knife. The recipe specifically says to eat the trimmings while you work, so make sure you do that. I found that the knife was another good way to help press the marzipan down onto the bottom because my fingers couldn't get there. And then you are going to move your cake once again off to the side to come back to later. Time to make royal icing. Grab another bowl and separate 3 large egg whites from the eggs. To this, you are going to add in a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. This is basically the start to a meringue. Mix this together until you have soft mounds. That looks pretty good. And now you're going to start to gradually add in 5 cups of confectioner's sugar. This is supposed to be sifted, but we didn't have a sifter, so we just kind of added it in all willy-nilly. Don't do that. Once all of your sugar is added, go ahead and add in your 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract, and then give that a mix. You're going to beat this until it is stiff. I think that mine was a little bit on the runny side, but it worked out fine. You are going to cover the entire cake with this fluffy, sugary goodness. It looks like marshmallow, but it's royal icing. A big thing to know about royal icing is that it cannot be put in the fridge. So once you've made this cake, it has to stay out or the royal icing will be completely ruined due to the condensation. The nice thing about this cake is that it can be stored at room temperature and just wrapped in plastic wrap, and it'll be totally fine. You can go ahead with this cake and add little designs into your icing, little plops, or these little, I don't know what these are called, but they looked pretty when it was dry. And this is the final cake. Look at how beautiful it is. That icing got really hard and crunchy. And this cake, let me tell you what, was sublime. You really only need maybe a 1/2 inch of a slice of cake. It is dense, it is rich, and oh my goodness, is it amazing. This cake is spicy, it's sweet, it's delicious, and my entire family loved it for Christmas.
Thank you so much for joining me over the course of this video the past couple of days as we cooked the Christmas cake for grown-ups for the Christmas season. Happy holidays, Happy New Year, and make sure that you like, subscribe, and share, and click that big red subscribe button down below and the bell so that you know every time that I post a video. And I will see you in the next one. Happy baking! Bye!